Have you ever stopped to think that maybe the blueprint for your entire life, your success, your failures, all of it, isn't out there somewhere, but it's right here, inside your own mind? Today, we're going to dive into this powerful idea that our thoughts don't just react to the world, they actually create it. Let's get into it.
We have to start with this quote because it just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? We spend so much energy worrying about all the external things that could go wrong. But what if the biggest threat, the thing that's really stealing your potential, isn't out there at all? What if it's the voice right between your own ears?
So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about how your mind literally shapes your reality. Then we'll look at the two mindsets that steer your life, the victim and the creator. After that, we'll get into the almost magical idea of speaking things into existence, uncover a crucial missing step, and wrap it all up with the one choice that changes everything.
All right, first up, your mind, your reality. The core idea here is, well, it's pretty profound, but also really simple. Think about it. Every single thing humans have ever built, skyscrapers, phones, art, everything, it all started out as just one thing, a little spark, an idea in someone's head.
Now, this is so much more than just thinking positive. This is about control. The source material we're looking at today says this power, the power to control your own mind, is stronger than anything else. It's stronger than poverty, stronger than a lack of education. Because if you can truly control the one thing that's completely yours, your mind, then you can steer your whole life in any direction you want.
So how does that actually work? Well, think of it like this. Your mind is always tuned to a certain frequency, and that frequency is set by what you frequently see in your imagination. So if you're constantly thinking about what you don't have, about problems, about scarcity, you're literally training your brain to scan the world for proof that you're right. But if you flip the switch and decide to look for opportunity, for abundance, you tune into a whole different frequency. And guess what? You start finding evidence of that everywhere.
And that whole idea of frequency leads us perfectly into our second section, the victim versus the creator. Because really, these are the two channels you can tune into. They're two totally different mindsets that lead to completely different lives. So on one side, you've got the victim mindset. This is the person who says, I feel awful because of my job, or because of the economy, or because of my boss. See how all the power is given to something external? But on the other side, you have the creator. This mindset says, I make things happen. I'm in control of how I feel. It's not about pretending bad things don't exist. It's about taking back the power and choosing how you're going to respond to them.
And this is where things get really exciting. Section 3, speaking it into existence. This is where that creator mindset starts to look a whole lot like magic. And we've got some incredible real-world examples of people who literally saw a future for themselves long before anyone else did. This line right here from Napoleon Hill's classic, Think and Grow Rich, is the foundation for all of it. And notice, it's a two-step formula. It's not just one. First, you have to be able to conceive it. You got to see it clearly in your mind. But then comes the hard part. You have to truly, deeply believe it. And who illustrates this better than Jim Carrey? I mean, this is amazing. Before he was a household name, he wrote himself a check for $10 million. He didn't just wish for it, he made a physical, tangible object out of his belief, and then he literally carried it in his wallet until it came true. That's belief in action.
And it's not a one-off story. Can you just imagine meeting a young Jeff Bezos surrounded by boxes in his garage, and he looks you dead in the eye and says he's going to be the richest person on earth? You'd think he was crazy. But see, for him, it was already a fact in his mind. He had conceived it and he believed it long before Amazon was a global giant.
Okay, so all this sounds pretty incredible, right? Just think it, believe it, achieve it. But that brings up a really important question. And that's what Section 4 is all about, building the bridge. This is what our source material calls the missing piece of the puzzle, the part most people get wrong.
Seriously, is it enough to just sit on your couch staring at a picture of a mansion on your vision board and, just wait for the keys to show up? The answer is a huge, resounding no. In fact, doing just that can actually hurt your chances.
Here's the catch. When you only focus on that huge, shiny end goal, the gap between where you are right now and that dream can feel, well, impossible to cross. You look at the mansion, then you look at your tiny apartment, and instead of feeling motivated, you just feel like a loser. The gap is too big.
So the real secret isn't to just visualize the destination. It's to visualize the bridge that gets you there. What does that mean? It means mentally rehearsing the tough stuff, the hard work, the struggle, the moments you want to quit.
You're basically preparing your mind and your entire nervous system for the reality of the work ahead.
So, what does this actually look like in practice? Let's say you want to run a marathon. Instead of just picturing the glory of crossing the finish line, you visualize this stuff. You picture yourself at mile 12 when your earbuds suddenly die. You picture getting a painful blister at mile 17 and having to push through it. You visualize waking up and it's pouring rain outside and you put your shoes on anyway. When you do that, the hard stuff doesn't surprise you when it happens. You're not resistant to it, you're ready for it.
And that all leads us right here to our final section. The choice is yours. Because it's one thing to visualize the bridge, but it's another thing entirely to build the kind of unshakable belief you need to actually walk across it.
So how do you build that belief? Our source lays out this simple but powerful three-step process. It all starts with writing your goal down. Why? Because the physical act of writing forces you to think clearly about what you want. That thinking creates a clear, consistent image in your mind. And seeing that same image over and over and over again, that's what starts to chip away at old doubts and actually change your core beliefs about what's possible for you.
Let this one sink in for a second. This quote basically says the how-to part, the work, the strategy, all that stuff, that was the easy part. The real fight, the hardest thing on the entire journey, was the battle that happened inside, to truly, deeply believe that he was the kind of person that could actually happen to.
And look, this is not a quick fix. This is not an overnight thing. One of the speakers in our source material said it took him 9.5 years of studying to finally understand why his life had so radically changed. It was because his fundamental beliefs had shifted. This is a long-term project of rewiring your own brain.
So this is where we land. Everything we've talked about, from the victim mindset to building the bridge, it all boils down to this. The toughest challenge isn't getting the job or earning the money. The real work is winning the battle of belief inside your own head. The power is already there, waiting to be directed. So the only question left is, what do you choose to believe?